Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. I'm Matt, your storyteller for the evening, and this evening we are playing the pre-written story "Fall of London" for Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. It's our regular Vampire Tuesday, and normally we run our own campaign, but this is a little secret story woven into the middle of things, with players playing different characters and everything. Accompanying us, as always, on this journey is Steve, our loyal stream manager. Like a kind of stream squire.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
He'll take it.
Yeah.
So Steve will be shuffling around cameras, putting up images, moderating chat, all that fun stuff for us. In the background, if he pops up on screen, don't be alarmed, but something has probably gone wrong. But it's fine. It will be fine. It's all fine. Thank you, Steve. So let's do a bit of lovely promo before we get into the meat of the stream. First off, if you look down below, you'll find links in one form or another, whether you're watching this on Twitch or watching it on YouTube. The main link you should pay attention to is the one for the one of those two that you're not watching it on. That sentence did make sense. But yeah, check out our Twitch, check out our YouTube. We've got a link down there for Discord if you want to join us on there and talk all things roleplay. We've got a link to our Patreon if you want to support us and get some tasty treats like character creation videos and backstage snippets. And we also have our social media on there. We've got Twitter and Instagram and all sorts of lovely stuff. We've also got Facebook, but that's not lovely. But we still have it. So check those things out. Yes. We also run now two more weekly series other than this. Yesterday was the very first episode of our ongoing Call of Cthulhu series. That's going to be airing every Monday at 8 o'clock p.m. GMT. And that's being run by Johnny. It's not even being run by me. You just can't rely on anything these days. And we have another series on Wednesdays. That's Symbaroom. That's Dark Fantasy from Free League. And I run that. And it's also on at 8 o'clock GMT. So yeah, 3 weekly streams every week. That's what weekly means. We're also running monthly one-shots the first Saturday of every month. The next one coming up, and I think this is the first time I've confirmed this at all, let alone on social media or anything like that. Yeah, this next one on April the 3rd, we'll be playing Mork Borg from another one from Free League, although I think it's a side company that they publish it through. But still, it's basically a doom metal album in the form of a role-playing game. So whether that appeals to you or not is entirely down to your sensibilities. But yeah, let's move forward and get on with this. As I say, we're playing Fall of London as a kind of interim thing in our regular Vampire Chronicle. For anyone who has read Fall of London, you may notice this is a heavily modified version of Fall of London. I'm just laying the groundwork there, just so people don't start exploding. But without any further ado, let's intro our characters and they can give a bit of a recap for what happened last week. So first on, let's bring on Justin. Justin is playing Alice, and that's all you know of the character, ultimately. Her name is Alice, more or less. How did things pick up last week, Justin?
Yeah, so last week, Alice and the team were roused from a long slumber of 40 or 50 years. They awoke, strapped to tables, I think, with a strange figure, Adelino the Silver, rousing them with a chalice full of vampiric blood. Not the vampiric blood of any super powerful vampire, but still, it's a good wake up, as it goes. Hair of the dog, like...
Not too bad.
I'll let that one go. That's as much as you're going to get out of me.
That's fine. That's fine. So let's bring on a second player. Let's bring on Pierre, who's playing Tommy. And what happened next?
Well, after we woke, we were a little thirsty, as you might imagine, being dead for such a long time and with nothing to drink. So the slightly worried-looking assistant brought out an array of bound and gagged people who we proceeded to drink from. A couple of us, not naming any names, Alice, we didn't really hold back at all and just drained them dry. Myself and I've lost his
Henry also tried.
Myself
not
and
to roll
Henry.
on, I believe.
Yes, we both held back a little more, but we both frenzied. My victim survived. His was screaming in agony, and that's just how it goes sometimes.
Well, that's how it goes in very specific circumstances, but for most kindred, the kiss or drinking for a vampire is a thing of wild pleasure for them. In fact, I go so far as to say that I would imagine it's quite unusual for you to... I'm not sure you'd have ever seen this before, is what I'm saying. But, yeah, unusual. I believe there were then also adventures with clothing and showers.
Yeah, I mean, some of us were, more open to the experience than others, but eventually we got past our early century prejudices and got clean.
Got clean and got dressed out of your horrible grave clothes. So let's bring on our third. Adventurous seems the wrong word. Our third horrific vampiric predator, Neill, who's playing Catherine, and Neill can take us through what occurred next.
So after that, our caretaker, let's say, took us to meet his master, and we found him through a nice meandering wander through the warehouse. We found his master and another kindred, we presume, the main one being Darius Shirazi, who was very excited to see us, very effusive, determined to know our names, everything about us. And when we finally got down to it, he told us that he was a servant of Mithras, and which meant something to some of us, to varying degrees. And he then presented us with a letter which Catherine read out in excruciating detail, which I won't do so now, but which basically informed us that we had been found by servants of Thomas, and that we needed to find various artifacts of spiritual value to Mithras, which had been secreted amongst various kindred of the city.
Absolutely. And then Tommy saw something rather unusual, which modern eyes would immediately recognize as a drone hovering out of the window. And with that, let's move on to our final player, John, who's playing Henry. And John can tell us how the session ended.
Well, we checked the next door security room to find that the warehouse was under assault from some sort of force that Darius referred to as antigen. We quickly made an escape alongside Darius after some gentle hurrying along, and made a way out through a secret exit in the shower that we'd been in not long before. Fled along the banks of the Thames, and I fell into the river, which reminded me of the fragile mortality of the city that we've woken up in, which that's basically it.
In story terms, you got a compulsion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe Catherine also fell into the Thames, but didn't have quite such a moment. Okay, yeah, so before we actually fully crack on, we have a little bit of mechanical gubbins to take care of, which is the remorse mechanic. So regular viewers will know that we alternate the things you're meant to do at the beginning of the sessions from one session to the next, 1 week's being XP and willpower recovery, the next week being remorse, just because these are shorter sessions and you would normally play, so we're halving them. So essentially, you now have to roll for remorse, and everyone did take stains from the feeding on and some killing of the helpless captives. Your dice pool is equal to all the unmarked dots on your humanity tracker to a minimum of 1. So, in other words, the space between your humanity and your stains at the end of the tracker is the number of dice you get to roll. If you roll a success of any kind, then you remove all your stains, and if you fail, you remove all your stains and 1 point of your humanity as you become a little bit closer to the beast inside.
I was rolling 3 dice. I got 2 successes, so I clean off my slate.
It's the same.
2 dice, 1 success.
The 2 murderers.
5 dice and 2 successes.
5
You didn't.
dice? You can't have 5 dice.
Alice starts with
Jeff,
5 humanity, according to my sheet.
No,
But-
Alice has 5 humanity.
Yep, and 5 unmarked. Oh, it's those 3 dice there. That's what I get. I always do this, right? I always get this bit messed up. I'll
always
try
the
that
gap.
again. It's always I thought it was the gap of how many, but it's the same gap. So it's not.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm fine. 3 successes in that case.
Well,
Either way, I'm fine. Right.
So no humanity lost. This is just an average day in the life of a kindred. So with that, we'll pick up exactly where we left off. You had clambered up this embankment nearby the warehouse. You can still hear the firefight between Antigen and the security forces raging, kind of a couple of buildings along. Ahead of you are empty streets, and you can see kind of other kind of docklands buildings, warehouses, maybe some small kind of industrial buildings and office buildings ahead of you. And Darius is kind of like looking over his shoulder to make sure you're all there and kind of scampering forwards onto the empty streets. Anyone gonna take a lead, or are we just comfortable to follow
Silence.
Darius?
Yeah, following Darius definitely.
Yes. And trying to look for any obvious source of new clothes along the way, because mine are thoroughly destroyed.
Sure, absolutely. You quite Darius's pace can best be described as sort of he's trying to be cautious, but he's also trying to move as fast as possible while not drawing any attention to him. It's as awkward as it sounds. He's clearly not a man used to illicit activities over much. And a couple of streets later, as the you can definitely still hear the firefight, but it's starting to recede into the distance now. He turns to you all and says, "Yes, so I don't know where it is you would like to go necessarily. I know of several nearby hotels, I suppose, where you could lay low, or I believe there is a small industrial complex just down this road that is scheduled for demolition. It is empty as far as I know."
I don't think that's quite good enough. I think a hotel will be fine.
Oh, very well. Yes, of course. No, of course not. I will just take us to a decent hotel. He turns round and carries on going. You follow him through the streets until you reach what appears to be, to your 1940s eyes, perhaps doesn't immediately appear to be a hotel, but he walks into it as if it is. It doesn't have, maybe the grand entrance that Catherine might instinctively be used to, but he kind of signals for you to wait a moment and walks inside. Where you've come to a halt is almost directly on the waterfront, and you can look across and see the lights of London spread out along the horizon for you. The city is certainly a lot brighter now than it was, with lots of glaring kind of neon lights, office lights still on, even the occasional. At first, it reminds you of searchlights from the Blitz, but then you realise that they're odd colours and they're clearly maybe lights to flag some kind of celebration or something like that.
I go up to Henry and I ask him, "So, have you heard of Antigen? Is this a person?"
I know as much as you do.
It seems we are facing mortals, which I must admit is not the usual opponent. Do you think they're in the employ of perhaps some enemy of Mithras?
I don't think now is the time to be speculating on the open street.
Good point.
It's worth noting that as someone perhaps with a medical origin, Henry, you definitely know what the term antigen means, even if you don't know what it means in this specific circumstance. An antigen is anything that triggers your immune response. But perhaps someone has claimed the name. Perhaps you don't know.
The name antigen also definitely suggests they are endeavoring to exterminate something. Us, presumably. Perhaps they view us as a plague.
Some things change. I don't like it.
Yes. Well, we're here now.
Alice, as you are standing outside, it's up to you whether you're perhaps you're pacing, perhaps you're standing still and taking in your environment. You see that just kind of down the street from where you are, there is, I suppose, the term you would perhaps think of is a vagrant, but a homeless person who sat there, kind of hopefully looking at nearby kind of passers-by. For change or something along those lines, and you suddenly experience a rush of sensation, and a memory comes to you, flashes up in your forebrain like you're still there. You're sitting on the filthy pavement of a cramped street. Around you, many others huddle together against the cold, reaching their hands out to passers-by who have nothing to give. The place is dark. The tight buildings crushing together seem to close in on you. You raise your hand to a gentleman walking past in a fine coat and top hat. "Tell your fortune, mister. Just a penny," you say. And then you're back. I don't know if you have a visible reaction to this. I'm not sure that Justin is aware I'm talking to him.
To me, sorry, no, I thought you were talking to Tommy. I think that Alice is already looking quite distracted, and she's maybe absent-mindedly kind of running her finger already along the chalice, kind of like within her, kind of the folds of her clothes and things like that. So probably. There's probably no like any kind of like movement or reaction that she has to that probably doesn't respond to anyone we know. Is already masked with other movements from her.
And it was just a momentary kind of blink, almost like a blink of reality, a second as the memory slammed home into you. But that's it. Darius walks out and says, "All right, I've booked a couple of rooms. So here you go." He holds out kind of quite garishly coloured room fobs, in kind of two of them, and just kind of waves them for someone to take them.
I will take one and say, "Oh, thank you, darling, and please have a man. Can you have a tailor sent up? I find myself in need of new clothing."
I'm afraid this hotel definitely will not provide that service.
Oh.
Yes, just food and board. Well, not the former for us, I suppose. Those. You realise that the fob in your hand doesn't have a key in it. It just has like a little round metal token. And he says, "Yeah, you will need to find the room and just press that against the handle."
Well, thank you anyway, sweetheart.
He nods and says, "Well, I will be back tomorrow evening. I will come to your rooms. I've booked this place for you for a week, but hopefully we won't be there that long. But I must see if my other holdings have been assaulted.
Of course.
Well, thank you very much for everything you've done.
I wish I could have done more.
You have been wonderful.
He nods and, looking quite kind of harried and flustered, half sprints off down the street.
I will shout vaguely after him, "Good luck!"
How is everything very brightly lit?
Yeah, pretty much so. Yeah.
How obvious is it that that I am like visibly disturbing?
Sure. Nosferatu plus, yeah.
Hideous appearance, yeah.
I mean, yes, very much so. But I mean, perhaps that shouldn't be your. It depends, you know. I mean, ultimately, people won't go, you know, oh my god, that's a Nosferatu. They will, you know, believe you to be someone who has undergone some kind of disfigurement. But
is
perhaps what you can do though, and perhaps what you all should do if you're going into this hotel is utilize Blush of Life if you think you'll be interacting with any humans.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if the reception is also well lit up and there's somebody there. I might see if there's a side entrance or anywhere that's like any.
I mean, it's literally in the middle of a block. There doesn't seem to be any kind of side entrance. But do you remember what? Do you remember what clothes you took though?
I took a sort of very like a grey, dark clothes, grey shirt. You know, very like.
Didn't we say like a tracksuit?
Yeah, kind of. I think so. That was the.
Let's say it's got a hood.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I would have picked that sort of thing.
Yourself. But you are definitely, you know, Nosferatu within V5 are like,
sure.
It will draw attention to you, and you may get certain kind of penalties for it. But they won't go vampire or monster. You know that you look like an unfortunately disfigured human.
No, I think it's more the fact that I'm not used to everything being so bright, and actually, I am reminded of.
Sure. Yeah. The electric light is quite stark.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of it.
And I'm not liking this.
Sure.
Okay, I'll use my Blush of Life.
Mm-hmm. I'm assuming everyone is using Blush of Life.
Yes.
No, fair enough.
I don't know that there's a great technological. There's cameras everywhere and people hunting for vampires using Blush of Life. So I wouldn't have done in the 40s.
Sure.
That's fair. I think I'm still assuming that there is a chance of running into someone in the corridor.
Concierge or something like that.
Okay, shall we go?
Concierges don't do that here, though, Alice.
Well, Alice looks lovely anyway.
Well, I will look at the card and say, well, we'd best figure out what we're doing with these then.
I think it's safe to say you can walk into the lobby. It's a large, you know, to our eyes, a very anonymous hotel lodge. You know, it's a travel lodge or something similar to that. Everything is brutally functional and generally just very neutral. You can see over on one side is an elevator, which I'm fair. Yes, of course they had them in the 40s. I think probably yes, and a set of stairs as well. Yeah, of course they did. It's just pulleys. Yeah. And there's
one in Down Street, for example.
Yes, there is. And there is a young man behind a desk who seems is tapping away intently on some kind of plastic metal device and seems completely uninterested in your presence.
Very good. I breeze past him.
I will go and wander over very briefly to him and
okay.
Let's try and get his attention.
He kind of looks up and says, "Yeah, whoa, are you okay?"
Oh, I'm fine, darling. Yes, just a bit under the weather. But I need you. I've had a bit of an accident, you see, and I gesture at the mass amount of mud.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any good shops I can visit tomorrow evening?
What for new clothes? Are you sure you don't want me to call an ambulance?
I'm fine, darling. Really, I'm fine.
He's kind of looking over to the others now and saying, Is
She
she
just
all
gets
right?
like this when she gets cold. We had a bit of a slip in the river, but she'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah, there's some, overnight big stores you can get clothes from. Yeah, he reels off a short name of some nearby. Obviously, they don't mean anything to you, but he runs through just anything he can think of, which ranges from TK Maxx, which is probably not Catherine's scene, but he does mention Harrods, which and if Harrods is still there,
Everything's okay.
There is hope, yes.
There's still hope.
Okay. Then I'll just thank him profusely and go and find the floor we need, I suppose.
Sure. It's not a massively important thing, but are we taking the elevator or the stairs?
Elevator.
Sure.
I see with the lift, yes.
Sure.
But I will say, while the young man at the desk was talking to Catherine, I'd have been, I guess, giving him a once-over. He's the first mortal I've seen in this strange new world. I want to know if anything has changed in the 70-odd years.
Sure. Sure. Well, I mean, his clothes aren't actually that jarring because he's in his travel lodge uniform or whatever, and that, I mean, it's a uniform with a little waistcoat and a name badge. That's pretty universal over the last couple of 100 years. Let's say he has he's got kind of hair tied back in a ponytail, which would be quite slightly jarring, depending on how old you are. Certainly, to vampires of your age, a man with long hair would be quite jarring in Britain, or at the very least, most of the men you've seen with long hair would probably be kindred who are a lot older than you. Let's say he's got a kind of scrubby little chin beard as well. I'm basically more or less channeling the guy from The Simpsons who works everywhere. Yeah, cool. He's definitely a bit ill-kempt by 1940 standards.
Okay, but generally of good health.
Yeah, sure. Why don't you? I know what you're going for. Why don't you give me a resolve plus medicine roll?
Okay.
No difficulty set. I'll give you what you get from it. You're going to have to roll really goddamn high for me to tell you how you think he's going to die, and therefore get rid of your thing. But
that's fair. But I'm sort of fluffing it, even without the compulsion. It's generally I want to know what the general standard of living of the 2010s is.
Sure.
Have there been recent wars, plagues, etc., etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
I don't get my dice penalty on this one, do I?
God, yeah. Yeah, of course you do.
Okay, then I'm rolling 2 dice.
Oh, no, you don't, because you don't get a penalty on anything where you're kind of examining other people's health, right? So, no, you don't. Yep. Sorry.
Okay, 5 dice.
So trying to figure out how he's going to die.
2 successes.
Yeah, I mean, he looks kind of well-fed. He's a bit sort of sweaty and pale, you guess. Which I guess could indicate maybe a slight malnutrition, but yeah, generally, like, he's got no open sores or anything like that. He's not coughing horribly with the after effects of some kind of horrible virus too soon. Yeah.
All right.
Too early.
And he doesn't have any like visible war wounds or anything like that. Like 1920s Britain would have been rife with people coming back with wounds and disabilities. Like Tommy.
All right, that's me satisfied.
Is there anywhere? Is there anywhere sort of vaguely behind cover or anything that I'm thinking about using Cloak of Shadows to sort of blend into my surroundings and see if when he thinks he's unobserved, he does anything on the information that he just got about a corpse.
Sure, yeah. Well, while you do that, I think it's safe to say then perhaps the other three get into the elevator and go up without you. It's worth mentioning that you haven't asked what room numbers you're in. So shall we assume that you've done that before you do this?
Does it not have it on the fob?
But
yeah,
he
I
doesn't
thought
have
it
the
did,
fob.
but-
I don't. Yeah, I have no idea.
Oh.
I think I don't have any idea.
The fob doesn't have a number on it.
It
No,
does, but he doesn't have the fob.
I don't have the fob. I'm just waiting
Sorry.
here, having made meaningful eye contact. I think I forgot, but I'm okay to have.
I'd just rather skip the inevitable 15-minute scene where you try and find the room by having someone give you that information before we do it. That's all.
Let's do it. Okay, that's fine. If I had
Sure.
the sense to do that.
You indicate you're holding back, and Catherine gives you the room numbers. It's
Sure.
that's fine. Cool. The other three get in the elevator and slip up. Does your Cloak of Shadows involve any mechanics?
It's so long as I stand perfectly still, and
Sure.
as long as I have cover and I make no sound and I don't move.
Sure. Well,
Then-
he's back on this device almost as soon as you all walk away. So you can kind of walk over to one side and lurk behind a kind of large. There's an area with a big coat rack, and it also has like a big potted plant, and you can kind of lurk behind that, obfuscate in a travel lodge.
Yes.
Atmospheric, and you lurk behind that. Your Cloak of Shadows slides over you, and you lurk there. How long are you waiting? Which I guess answers your question that I'm just asking you how long you're waiting.
15 minutes.
Yeah, he's doing nothing. He's just
Sure.
absorbed in whatever thing he's playing with, which seems to occasionally make kind of obnoxious, odd pinging and shrilling noises at him.
I'll wait until he's particularly distracted and then I'll slip off.
Sure. He's more or less distracted all the time, so
Brilliant.
you just wait. He at one point he kind of starts cursing under his breath, most of which you recognize as curse words.
Yeah.
And then you slip off up the stairs, I would assume, rather than
Yeah.
but your Cloak of Shadows disappears once you start moving anyway.
Yeah.
Right? So as you walk out and start walking up the stairs, his eyes flick up to you. He doesn't look surprised though, because he's barely paying attention to what's in the room. He just kind of looks up
Sure.
and back to it. Up in the room, well, there are two rooms. Both of them are just twin rooms with two beds. Both of them are, I guess actually by 1940 standards, they're pretty nice. Quite nice hotel rooms. Each of them have a TV, which is technology. Well, you saw the security screens last time, right? So yeah, they're there. And I think, you're intelligent individuals who've listened to a lot of radio and the like. I think you wouldn't think that those are security monitors or anything. So yeah, they're fairly pleasant. Shall we convene you all in one room to discuss things? Does that sound like a reasonable next scene?
Seems reasonable.
Okay.
So.
Perhaps you wait for Tommy. Tommy knocks on the door, walks into the room.
So, what's the plan?
All things okay downstairs, Tommy?
Yes, he seemed mostly distracted. That was a little reckless of you, Catherine.
Catherine just looks confused for a second and then bows on as if he hadn't said anything. Well, I think there's a party we need to get to.
Yes.
So, I think you're ignoring what I just said. We have just come from a very dangerous place where people have identified us. I don't think it's wise to be so reckless.
Well, thank you, Tommy, and that's a lovely comment. But the party, I believe, is soon, and we need to find out what we're wearing.
We must
He's
prepare.
right.
Am I not
We aren't
well
going to
dressed
get
enough?
anything done if we're hunted down.
You're quite right, which is why it's very important that we lay low and make sure we find the other kindred.
Okay. Fine.
This party was this party happening tomorrow night or something, or a few nights time?
All Darius said was soon,
Mm.
and he gave you a telephone number on an embossed card and said that that would be the best way to secure an invitation.
What time is it, by the way? Roughly.
Let's say it is 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. Now we can. I'll get out the card. Now we can call them, but I don't. None of us really know the situation in these nights.
Well, Darius seems to think that's the most sensible way of securing an invitation.
I think both he and the letter also made it clear that it is a party organised by Queen Anne, the new Prince of London.
Ah, yes.
Queen Anne will understand if we're a bit out of touch with the latest etiquette.
I'm sure we can't be the only ones who disappeared during that frightful war and have woken up now.
Do we know? Would it be wise to get some information on this new prince? Or is that the purpose of the party?
I wonder who this number is for. Not the prince, but maybe they can tell us about her.
We have some memories of Anne from our previous time in London, don't we?
I think that's safe to say. Anne obviously wasn't as important as she is now, but she was a very prominent member of Clan Ventru. Like you absolutely know who.
Okay.
Well, you are assuming that it is Anne Bosley because Anne was a very prominent member of the Ventru.
I think that was explicitly spelt out last session.
Yeah, the letter said Anne Bosley.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm just skipping over there. Sorry, the fact that your memories are screwed, but I think that's fine for you for little bits like that to have. You may not know what she means to you or any interactions you've had, but you recognise the name Anne Bosley. You know she's a member of Clan Ventru and a high-ranking one at that.
Well, unless anyone has any better ideas, I'd best ring them.
And we also know that all of these people who possess these artifacts were once also, at least in some way, associated or loyal to Mithras. Whether or not that connection will help us make connections with them or hinder us making connections to them, we'll have to find out.
I imagine Catherine has a letter out. Did Catherine still have the letter at this point? Or
Yes, I think so.
Okay. I'll have the letter out at this point as well and say, it does say that they may not be to be trusted, though. Although,
I'm just wondering. Oh, go on, Catherine.
Can I be honest with all of you? And I suppose I must because we are all the only ones we can trust. But I don't know about this Thomas fellow. Darius seemed very helpful, but it seems he says not to trust anyone on this list. But how do we know we can trust him?
That's true. Well,
Presumably
Thomas...
he was the one behind our awakening.
This
Yes.
Thomas, they seem to be, a temporary figure moving forward. We'll see once we have collected the artifacts whether they are still meet the requirements of the role of the head of our Mithratic cult. But for now, we should collect these artifacts.
Or we should, regardless, I feel we'll need to speak to Anne Bosley as we need to announce ourselves to the prince. Can't just be wandering around in London without her at least knowledge of it.
A representment of sorts.
I think you're probably right.
So when you do want to make the phone call, you notice that as well as the mobile phones you've been given by Darius, there is a phone that's more recognizable as a phone to you in the hotel room. Obviously, it's not a rotary phone, but like it's more obviously a phone. It has, a handset and numbers on it.
So that I don't role play the picking up and listening to the dial tone and going, "Ooh, this is you." I'm going to pretend that I've done that.
Yeah.
At this point.
Although if you're the one taking the lead on that, also, although I should advertise, is anyone else likely to be kind of like taking a look at the phone in any meaningful way, or are we just kind of letting Catherine pick it up and crack on?
If Catherine, I was just going to say that if Catherine is picking up that phone, I will be suggesting that we use the ones that we were given. Because we were told about the concept of a burner phone, and yeah,
you're quite right. I just and Catherine will just look at it and then compare it to the burner phone and go.
Sure, but do you want to just very quickly for me, Catherine, give me a wits plus technology roll? I realise that might not be a terribly high one for Catherine.
So wits, you say, with 3 dice?
Well, you're after difficulty 3, so it's lucky that you have 3.
0.
Yeah, never mind. I was basically checking to see if Catherine noticed the speakerphone option. That's all.
Well, I'm putting it back anyway,
sure.
and getting out the burner phone and dialing it.
Sure. The number rings. So, go ahead.
I should say, unless anyone stops, I'm basically taking the lead with Catherine here, but obviously just stop me if I'm going too much.
No, I think I would perfectly expect Catherine to be the one making the party arrangements.
I expect Catherine to be as well.
So the phone rings for perhaps about 20 seconds or so, and then a young woman's voice answers that just says, "Churchill."
Hello. This is... I don't know my full name. This is Catherine. I was hoping to attend the party in a few nights.
I see. Well, the party is open to all members of our society as long as they are currently dwelling in London. Have you attended one of Queen Anne's parties before?
Oh, yes, but it was a long time ago.
I see. This voice, you cannot place it and you cannot pin down where from, but you know this voice and you are having a very averse reaction to it. Not fear. You feel like this person and you are maybe not friends. Very well. Yes. Well, the party is at the Shard. It is the evening after tomorrow, and it is being considered Elysium. So, obviously, take that into consideration with your attendance.
But of course,
you will find a special entrance for attendees at the party on the reception level, marked with a symbol of the local Camarilla. Oh, and I would advise you very closely, yourself and anyone else who attends alongside you, to each bring a gift for the Queen.
But of course, that'd be marvellous.
Well, if that is everything, perhaps I could... Is anyone attending with you? Perhaps I could take their names as well?
Oh, yes, there'll be several of us. Henry and Alice and Tommy.
Very, very informal. Well, then, we shall see you the night after tomorrow.
Did he say their name at the beginning of the call? Or did they say their name?
All she said was Churchill.
Churchill. Good. Okay. Well, it'd be lovely to see you there as well, Churchill.
Click.
Don't think she liked me for some reason. Or any of you.
Right.
She said there's a party in a few nights at a place called the Shard, and that we should bring gifts. It is Elysium, of course.
Right.
I suggest a change of clothing for all of us as well.
Yes. I wonder why, if Queen Anne is still on the side of Mithras, that we would be unwelcome.
I don't know if we are unwelcome to Lady Anne, but just this woman. I'm sure I knew her. Know her.
Was her name Churchill?
Churchill.
I mean,
obviously that's a name quite impactful to people who just come from World War II.
I wonder if it's a nickname.
Does anything ring a bell? No, nothing.
No, nothing immediately occurs. You know, like just a name on its own isn't quite enough. It's kind of like someone's full name, or certainly meeting them you feel might spark more. But at the moment, everything is just this impenetrable mist.
Yeah. I have no idea. A gift, you said?
Yes. I'm afraid I can't remember much about her to say what she would like. But a prince is a prince. And we want to go shopping anyway, so we might as well.
Indeed. So I'd say it's probably about 4 a.m. now. You're unsure. I mean, no, well, you won't be entirely unsure what time it is, what time of year it is. It seems quite cold outside, so you would imagine it's, that could be anything except summer, I suppose. And no, you know what? There's a digital clock, a digital alarm clock, and that has, which is quite unusual to your eyes, obviously, but it has the date and such on it. It is January of 2012. So you imagine you've got a couple of hours left, but at the time in the morning it is, you can't imagine that anywhere will be open, or not unless things have changed hugely. In point of fact, the rest of your evening might be best spent working out where in this hotel room you are to sleep for maximum protection.
Yes.
I was going to suggest two things: sleeping arrangements for tonight, and start planning the next night, so that because we don't have much time, so we might as well plan it in advance.
That seems appropriate. So with that in mind, what kind of planning are you going to do? And would anyone? And I think I'd like one role for one person to kind of take charge on this. One role for someone to work out the safest way to sleep in these rooms. Who thinks they might take charge of that? Well, I'll give you the stats I'd like for it, which will be, he said, desperately trying to find a character sheet. They will be, I would imagine, intelligence plus survival, probably. Yeah, intelligence plus survival.
Alice is reasonably capable of those kinds of things.
I have a little bit of survival.
Catherine is definitely more interested in the second part of the planning phase.
Sure. So how about we have Alice make the roll, and you can take an extra die for everyone else who has survival as a stat. So that's Tommy, so an extra 1 die. And there's no difficulty. We'll just, we'll see what...
see how protected we are.
Yeah.
Let's see. 6 successes.
Whew. Well, that's quite good. So with 6 successes, certainly one of the first things you notice is you kind of take in the room and examine it in detail. You walk past the door and notice something hanging on it. It says "Do not disturb" on it. You immediately take that off and hang it on the outside, realizing very quickly it is, there were similar things back then, but perhaps not the same kind of do not disturb. You see that the cupboards are rather large and sturdy, and that the duvets and sheets are rather large and sturdy, and that the best news of all, the curtains are very, very thick. You think that each of you could fit within one of these cupboards, piled under the duvets and sheets, and you'd be shocked and surprised if you hit any problems at all, barring some mortal coming in and unveiling you.
Can we wedge anything against the door to be extra safe, like a chair or something like
You
that?
absolutely can. There are desks and chairs in there that you could slide up against the doors for extra protection.
And
Can I
just go on, yeah.
I was going to ask a question out of character to you as our leader of this task. Is it sensible for us to sleep in one room or two rooms? Because we do have two rooms, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's always more sensible to stay together. If anything were to go wrong, but
There is definitely only cupboard space for two individuals in each room. But you don't have to sleep there. You could, you could try and secure the bathroom, for instance, where a couple more of you could sleep.
or we could. I was thinking maybe leaning the bed frame, which is normally got a solid thing, up against the window, and then that's extra secure. Then there's floor space.
And just sleeping on the floor under the. Perhaps so. I don't
know if that's a better option or not.
I mean, the curtains completely block light. You're not sure a bed frame would do it in any greater sense.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, I'll relay that information.
Okay. If we're only going to use one room, and potentially the bathroom seems to be a good second place that will unlikely to be disturbed, perhaps the other room can be in some sense a decoy.
Yes, Justin?
Do our phones have lights on them? I can't remember what was a standard feature on a phone 10 years ago.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
You may not know this until you play around with it, but yeah. Mickey will have shown you that, so yes.
Cool.
Planning.
Right. I'm most concerned about providing a gift.
Well, we have no. What we've got.
We have very little in the way of resources, but perhaps information, secrets,
or effort, something that comes from the heart.
A vessel, perhaps. Always welcome.
I'd rather not go for that latter option.
Just to clarify, you when you talk about resources, you do have, I believe, £1,000 that Darius has granted you, and also I should emphasize that Churchill definitely said a gift each.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why I'm ignoring the cash, because £1,000 isn't very much in Kindred's world. It's certainly not very much when it's just 250 minus clothes.
Henry, what kind of things would you give as a gift? What would you like to receive? Good news?
I think I may be quite hard to buy gifts for.
Well, fortunately, dear, so is the prince.
I have an idea about what I would like to get. Something simple, something that takes time and effort. It will involve me spending some time wandering around the streets of London tomorrow. Over that time, I may not be able to help you with whatever you're doing. I think only maybe a few hours, 3 or 4, should be enough time to collect all the things that I need.
Okay. So at least you're sorted.
I may have an idea of last resort, but it's always good to have a backup. I think in times like this, one never knows what the host will want until without even meeting her. But aside from that, we also need to find some way of speaking to her about this. And I'll get out the letter. This clay seal. Once used for official documents, well, if I was a prince, I would want to keep using it for my official documents.
Mm,
We may have to find some way of convincing her to help us with this.
Do you think that the combination of names that we gave will reveal who we are? As in
well,
what we
if
stand for?
Churchill knows Catherine, and Catherine is known to be associated with us, perhaps the last
Almost
people we were
certainly.
ever seen we were with each other.
How many kindred must have gone missing in the 40s, though?
We
But how
weren't
many
just any.
kindred? Well, exactly, Tommy. We weren't just any kindred, especially not to Queen Anne.
Are you sure?
Well, no,
We can't.
but
I mean, I might be reading too much into it, but does the Heralds of the Sun not mean anything? Perhaps it was a meaningless title, but it feels like it wasn't.
Well,
It may certainly mean something to us, but that doesn't mean it was something that was shared around.
and if we were that important and it's taken 70 years to dig us up,
all things in good time.
well, maybe something will return to us tomorrow. But
It seems like the well is running somewhat dry tonight. Perhaps Darius
Yes.
will be able to offer some kind of suggestion. And with that, I think you can make your preparations for sleeping. I think we agreed that we're blocking the doors, putting the do not disturb sign on them, and we're secreting ourselves in the one room, curtains drawn, two of you tucked away in the large, roomy wardrobes, and two of you tucked away in the bathroom. Presumably someone gets the bath and someone gets the floor. Let's actually, and this has no value for things that are going to happen, but I just want to know who is going where.
well, Catherine will want to share a room with Alice. So if we're both the bathroom or both on the floor, Catherine doesn't care as long as with Alice for decorum.
Certainly, the floor would be my preference.
Okay, it looks like Tommy and Henry are stuffed into a wardrobe together then.
Sure.
There we go.
I will at
Buddies.
least remove my shoes and muddy outer clothes before I swaddle myself.
So all of you slowly drift off into not slumber but death, and it's an odd feeling pitching yourself back into that darkness after the amount of time you've been in it recently. But nevertheless, it's what you must do. Can everyone give me a rouse check to see if their hunger increases overnight, please?
Success.
I remain
Fail.
at 0 for a moment more.
Someone was going to have to roll it sooner or later. So does that move Henry to 2?
3,
Okay.
because I failed the rouse for my blush of life as well.
Oh, okay. Well, that's exciting.
Luckily, Henry doesn't have stigmata, as far as I know.
That's true. Definitely easier than with Arthur.
I'd laugh if Henry does, and you just don't know yet.
Just randomly.
He does inflict horrifying pain when he feeds, so...
So you all kind of rouse yourself out of your slumber, and you know what? Like maybe this doesn't work quite mechanically, but I think it works thematically. I think since you've been in torpor, maybe you do sleep a bit more until your blood fully rouses itself. So I'm going to say you wake up to the sound of someone kind of gently but quite also quite urgently knocking on the door.
I look to Henry.
Oh, what did you guess it, please?
I'm fairly
will-
sure that spy holes existed in the 40s. So,
But of course,
Unwrap-
sweetheart.
Or were you two in the bathroom?
I think
Yeah.
Henry and Tommy have a better chance of getting to it first.
Yeah.
I will
Cool.
unwrap
Cool.
myself from the
Look
duvet.
lively.
Oh,
Look alive.
and rouse, blush of life, etc. Well, no, I will look through the spy hole first.
Okay. It is Darius.
I'll let him in.
Okay. He kind of steps in, and kind of his nose wrinkles, and he says, "Oh yes, the river.
Yes.
How was your evening? Everything all right?"
No problems. As far as we're aware. Yourself?
Oh,
How are your
yes.
holdings?
Oh, fine. I'm hoping they haven't tracked me down personally, and it was perhaps another matter that drew them to the warehouse. He sort of smoothed himself down. He's obviously dressed in a better condition than all of you. Let's have a little refresher of what he looks like as well. He's of Persian or Iranian descent, black hair and hazel eyes, slender and dressed in a vintage 70s suit, clean and pressed with a cravat. And it's the same, but a different suit.
I briefly
It is
sort of. Yeah.
Let's go with Neill.
It is so good to see you again and well. But you don't think they could know about us somehow, do you? If nothing else has been touched.
I would very much doubt it, Catherine. I would very much doubt it.
Who were they?
Yes, I suppose a little bit of a recent history lesson is perhaps called for. He walks over to kind of the desk where the television is mounted above and sort of leans against it. He's got a kind of a briefcase with him, and he sort of holds it to his chest almost protectively, and says, they are known as Operation Antigen, and they are part of a wider movement which some perhaps more alarmist kindred have referred to as the Second Inquisition.
No.
I fear so. They've only really come to life in the last couple of years, or few years, and they seem to be quite confident and quite well armed. Yes. Yes. In fact, a number of rather disturbing events have taken place over the last few years that have perhaps exposed us to the notion that perhaps some may say we are not quite as in control as we once were. I don't know if any of you, our information was limited. I don't know if any of you are of Clan Tremere.
Not me.
Justin? No.
No, I mean, I don't see the need to reveal such information.
Sure. Yeah. Well, they're the notorious, obviously. Their chantry head chantry in Vienna was destroyed.
Oh, how ghastly!
That seems unlikely.
Oh,
These reports are
interesting.
true.
Oh yes, quite true. The clan is somewhat headless and rudderless, sadly.
And just mortals, you say?
That does indeed seem to be the case. Obviously, many individuals have laid the feet at the blame of perhaps other individuals of our kind. Maybe some whisper foolish foolish further notions of Gehenna and the antediluvian threat and whatnot. But nevertheless, yes. Quite a lot has changed, I think, actually, since your time. Various clans have changed, perhaps their demeanor and their place in the world. Yes.
What of my people?
Well, Tommy, the clan Nosferatu continues to serve the Camarilla with diligence and extremely usefulness.
And the Queen and the kindred at the party. Is there anything we should know about them?
I would imagine that a great number of the kindred from who base themselves in London will be present at the party. Obviously, with it being Queen Anne's affair, there will be a great many of Clan Ventru there. But that aside, it depends entirely who you wish to be talking to. I would imagine that almost every name on your list there will be in attendance at the party.
Oh, I was just thinking about the Queen herself because we need to speak to her, but that changes things.
Queen Anne is seems perfectly reasonable. Obviously, no comparison to Lord Mithras, but she has steered the city at least safely in his absence, if controversially for those of us holding faith, since she has she has brought us into the fold of the Camarilla completely.
Completely?
Yes. London is a Camarilla stronghold now, rather than I believe it was in a state of association rather than directly under the Camarilla's purview in the time of Lord Mithras. Yes. So, but yeah, she keeps the peace and seems reasonable.
Good.
Do you know anything of her relation to Mithras?
I believe she claims some form of descent, but many of the Ventru in London do. As far as I'm aware, she was never particularly inducted into the Mithraic mysteries, and if she still holds any kind of faith, she hides it well.
And if you were getting a gift for the Queen for the party, what would you get?
Oh my word! I suppose yes, you would be asked for a gift.
From each of us.
Yes, that would definitely be the prince's custom. A vessel, perhaps some very fine jewelry. It's so difficult to get vessels for Ventru, though, isn't it? I'm afraid I'm somewhat at a loss on the matter. Perhaps an item of symbolic significance to a prince or to a member of Clan Ventru, something striking and bold and regal.
That sounds so perfect.
I sort of restrain myself from spitting.
Dude, you wrong Nosferatu.
It sounds troublesome.
I have been thinking. Well, no. Please, Catherine, go first. What kind of gift had you imagined?
Well, as I said, I was already thinking perhaps a vessel, something, but not for the feeding. Perhaps that is a secondary benefit. Perhaps someone who could create some, not in time for the party, but create some nice Ventrue symbol for the Queen to set, or a portrait perhaps. Yes, I think some kind of artist create a portrait of the Great Queen, and maybe to feed on.
Oh yes.
Darius nods and says, "Well, that sounds perfectly reasonable. Assuming, I suppose, that you can secure such an individual for tomorrow evening."
Yes, that is the difficulty.
I suppose I can point you in the direction of perhaps a gallery or a club or a bar where such individuals might spend their evenings, and you could attempt to persuade someone to accompany you, but obviously within the limits of the Masquerade.
That would be wonderful, darling. Wonderful, delightful.
And the rest of you, is there anything else I can help with?
What season is it?
It is moving towards the end of winter, Alice.
Oh no.
Why does that affect you so?
Well, I was hoping to get a seasonal gift, but I'm sure a florist will be able to help me out.
Oh yes, I imagine these things have progressed somewhat since, if you pardon me, your time. Many supermarkets and florists nowadays will be able to provide many out-of-season goods.
The gifts are so much less impactful for not having collected them yourself, but I can.
Very well. Tommy, Henry, any notions?
The only thing I can think of is some form of service, but I am not sure what service I can provide. I feel this body has been used for war, but I don't know if that's what Queen Anne is interested in doing.
Well, as not to paraphrase Niccolo Machiavelli, but a prince must always prepare for war, Tommy. So I'm sure she will be able to make ample use of someone of your prowess.
Well, perhaps that is what I'll offer her.
I have no interest in second guessing what someone else would want. Point me to a jeweler's.
Certainly. He reaches into his suitcase and brings out a big map of London, which he says, I thought this would be of great use to you. He places it on the desk and points. He's already marked the hotel where you're at, the warehouse, the Shard, and he also marked. He has marked Harrods, which he essentially went. I thought it's a good store. I realize you don't have a huge amount of money to burn, but I know, Catherine, that you would perhaps want decent clothes, and I thought I'd mark it out. I mean, you know where Harrods is already, but he's still done it. And then he says, and I think you'll find, and he bends over and he tags a place and says, there is a lovely young person's art gallery here, where perhaps you might find people keen for patronage, and perhaps you could attend there and see if someone would be interested. And Henry, yes, this would be the nearest jewelers here, and he marks a location on the map. Is there anywhere I could mark down for you, Alice?
A night market, please. Somewhere that may sell all kinds of things. Produce, clothes, perhaps.
Absolutely. You would you want Camden Market, I think, and he kind of notes that down. And obviously we're 9 years before it being infested with annex here, so. And he slides it over the desk to you and says, is there anything else at all that I could potentially help you with? I have a great many things to attend to tonight, but I'm more than happy to put some of them aside if I'm required.
I did have one thought. But not for right now, but before the party, certainly. If, as you say, all of these people will be there, could you write us a few notes, something that we can read in advance, just in case?
Not quite, because I'm afraid that would be somewhat antithetical to the nature of trying to avoid information being discovered by. The Camarilla has laid down some precautionary measures. For instance, those phones you have are technically not perhaps advisable, and I wouldn't want to leave any information written down unless I had to. But I can give you the verbal cliff notes, as it were. If you wished, what kind of do you wish? Names, ranks, that kind of thing.
Well, just who these people are aside from their clan, and how we might persuade them.
Of course. Queen Anne, you know her. She is of Clan Ventrue and is the Prince of London. He flicks down and he immediately jumps against that last name, the one he seems to count as an ally or a friend of some sort. And he says, Gwenllian, she is of Clan Brujar, and she is quite old and quite powerful, and has some influence and interest in the museums of London, as I do myself, and hence our association. She is currently not in favour, would be a polite way to frame it. In fact, some of her activities, I'm not entirely sure on the details, but some of her activities have landed her near to, if not precisely on, the red list. You are all aware of what the red list is. It is essentially the Camarilla's most wanted list.
And yet,
individuals on the red list typically do not have long to live.
And yet is at the party.
Oh, yes. I mean, normally Gwenllian may attend these parties. I doubt she will be at this one. I do not believe it is at the point where a blood hunt has officially been called, but it is nearing that point.
What did she do?
I'm slightly unclear on the details, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Rumored activities to do with perhaps insurgency and things perhaps to do with the cult of Mithras. But that is good news for us. Yes, perhaps she is clearly still loyal to our Lord, and maybe she'll be willing to help. I may be able to help you to find Gwenllian, but perhaps give me a couple of nights to investigate my sources first.
Of course.
As for the others, Sri Sansa is a prominent member in London of Clan Tremere. I believe he makes his home in Southall. And
Richard
de Word, I almost said Roger. Richard de Word is an equally prominent member of Clan Nosferatu, and at this he gestures at Tommy. He's something of a gadfly and a social animal, although that has perhaps he is by equal parts a social creature and perhaps not always the most popular individual. He dwells below. I'm not sure where, but I would be shocked and surprised to the extreme if he did not attend the party.
Okay. What does he look like?
Catherine's giving you a slightly odd look, as if you've vomited on the kitchen table at this point.
He's a man with a unique and striking physique. well tailored. He immediately he's seen a way out of this this conundrum and leaps on it. He is always extremely well tailored, a very sharp suit. Savile Row, I wouldn't be surprised.
Unlike me, then.
You have a charming earthy fashion to you, Tommy.
Well, in your defence, Tommy, we have just risen out of the grave after half a century. Or even my fashions could be improved.
I know, I was just holding... I was perhaps being a little cruel. I'm sorry, my friend.
That's all right. Is there anything else I could help with before we all go about our duties?
Don't believe so.
What is the best way to contact you?
Well, for now, I would prefer not to be granting my my telephone number out to others if I am, well, under any kind of observation.
Understandable.
Shall we just say that I will return to this hotel room each evening at the beginning of the evening to check in, and perhaps some nights you may wish to take me out and about with you. How does that sound?
Sounds marvellous. Wonderful.
Well, I'm very glad to be of help. And now, if you'll excuse me, as I said, many matters I am, trying to move my haven.
Yes.
He gets to his feet, kind of taps the map on the table for you, and with a kind of slightly nervous smile, walks out of the door.
Is our window facing the street?
Yes.
I'll just sort of like push the curtains back and kind of have a look. Also, I kind of want to see is there anyone else out there who maybe was following this person or anything like that?
Yeah, sure. Let's you can absolutely make a roll for that. Let's give you a wits plus awareness roll. I think is fine. And as per usual with a lot of my rolls of this nature, we won't set a difficulty. We'll just reward you based on what you achieve. Don't forget your hunger dice.
Rolling 5 dice. My hunger is currently at 1.
And as you do that, I'll ask, everything okay, Tommy?
I roll 3 successes.
Okay. As far as you can tell, there is no one lurking or watching outside. After a minute or so, Darius steps out onto the street. He sort of seems to kind of shake himself a little bit and then run kind of a hand through his kind of thick black hair, and then kind of make himself a bit more respectable and kind of sharp and bright, and strolls off down the street, suitcase in hand, quite purposefully.
Everything seems fine. He seems rather busy. I am a little worried that if he got his haven found, that maybe he's not so careful when it comes to being tracked.
I know what you mean. If it wasn't for the fact that we only had these bare funds, I would suggest finding somewhere else to stay.
Yes. And then I just go, I should probably get showered. And then I go and clean up.
Do you need to clean up?
Because I didn't go into the water.
You didn't go into the water, and kindred don't sweat.
Oh, perfect.
Well,
so actually,
they can sweat blood under certain circumstances.
Disregard that. I smell.
Technically, they could sweat if they wanted to, if they made themselves sweat by expending blood, a blush of life effect. But why would they do that?
We'll be doing just that.
Yeah,
though.
Catherine and Henry, on the other hand, may definitely want to, have a shower.
I will politely wait until after Catherine has finished.
Well, we have 2 rooms, of course.
Yes,
that is true.
And Catherine will also do her best to get the worst of the grime off, so at least I'm not a complete disgrace as I walk through to get the new clothes.
Absolutely. Let's cover the course of this night, and I'm not entirely sure we need to go into forensic detail on all these scenes because I'd like to rattle a bit forward a bit faster with Fall of London than with our regular campaign. So what I'll do, I'll hop to each of you, and we'll say obviously 3 of you have gifts to get. One of you is the gift, so maybe not so much. But we'll cover those, and then we'll say if there's anything else that your characters want to try and take care of or do tonight, either together or or apart. And we will kind of cover it. But I want to a certain degree, wave past this evening at least a little bit. So we'll start off. We'll go clockwise. We'll start off with Alice. So Alice, I have a very strong suspicion because I know your character sheet what you are taking as a gift.
Really?
Oh, I thought you had a ritual you were perhaps going to use.
No, I'm not going to do a ritual. I don't have time to do a ritual.
That's fair. I don't know because I believe you do have the ritual for creating a bloodstone. Is that correct?
I do, but I don't have the time. One more night, maybe I could have done it.
That's fair enough. So, what is Alice's gift, and how does she go about procuring it?
Alice is going to assemble a bouquet and vase for Queen Anne, which has a mixture of commonly found flowers and rare flowers that symbolize a variety of things that I'll post in the Twitch chat and say. But briefly, they kind of symbolize things like one is Queen Anne's lace or wild carrots, which simulate havens, sanctuaries, delicateness, and then other things that symbolize remembrance, faithfulness, constancy, humility and trust, dependence, and of course, rebirth. And I'm going to assemble all of these things. I think that fits with Alice's occult knowledge as well as her survival knowledge. Yep. So she knows plants, she knows their meaning, and she's sure that Queen Anne. She doesn't know that wild carrots are known as Queen Anne's lace, and doesn't know that sunflowers, which will also feature rather prominently in the display. I'm sure even if she wasn't well versed on the meaning of flowers, she'll be able to get the gist.
Absolutely. And in fact, Justin, you have wonderfully connected some dots here for me that allow me to do something else. So very well done on that. How about you give me a roll for how well you go around London and gather all this stuff and put together this bouquet. And I think we will go with. Feel free to suggest alternate skills if they're not they don't fit. But can we go with intelligence plus craft? I don't know if Alice has craft.
Yeah, I don't have craft. I hoped to avoid physically putting it together myself, but I was thinking either going to a florist and buying most of these things.
All right, and paying to have it arranged a bit.
Yeah. The selection of the flowers is really what she's going for. So it could be a cult role, or it could be a survival role to find some bits and bobs.
Well, all right. Let's. If you want to make it have a kind of magical and occult significance, kind of a herbalism kind of sense to it, then go ahead and give me an intelligence plus occult roll to see how well you put that together. And if you're not putting it together yourself, you'll definitely have to pay a bit to have an arrangement made. But it's not going to be. I don't know how much flower arrangements cost in London in 2012. It's a shocking gap in my knowledge, but I'd say maybe £30 to have a pre-selection. Oh, you are the one with more London experience than me. £60 then. So you spend £60 from the.
That would be a good deal at Camden Market, I think. So £60 to like a nice arrangement and arranging it so that things like I've got an idea of how it looks, but I'll put it in chat.
Elements like spring out. Yeah, absolutely. Pop that in chat. £60 then for that, and give me that intelligence plus occult roll to see how meaningful it is. Of course, whether that meaning translates to Queen Anne or not, you have absolutely no idea. But
4 successes.
Okay, it is certainly an arrangement and a presentation that would strike anyone with knowledge of the occult and of herbalist matters as being a very apt and symbolic gift with representations of, as you say, like power and security and things like that.
Someone in the know would read it as remember your allegiance to Mithras, but let's be friends. That's basically what it says.
That's the intent. I think you put together something that would have that give that impression, but it would definitely have to be someone receiving it who is
knowledge about etiquette and things like that.
you in order to really get the full impression of it. But regardless, you receive this gift. You go to Camden Market, interact with the mortals there. It is, despite the late hour, it is loud and well lit. And your traversal across London, you've seen, things have clearly changed. Technology has clearly progressed, phenomenally so. You see a number of things and you start to adapt to these things as well. As Neill has pointed out, we should probably rouse check because you don't have to, but you are interacting with humans very definitely in this scenario.
Yeah, I failed that rouse check.
That's fine. Knock that hunger up by 1. And you know what? You have prompted me to use something else here. So, as you take the arrangement that a young lady at one of these market stalls has made for you, that is actually a very pleasant job done and is wrapped in kind of like gore, coloured gauze and things like that.
Ivy is going around holding the whole thing together.
Ivy is holding the whole thing together. And I believe you said you wanted like a small vase presentation.
Yeah, something looks nice, yeah.
Something perhaps simplistic but nice, like a ceramic sort of thing.
Oh, I love it.
And perhaps even you've chosen a purple colour, a purple and gold colour, Clan Ventru colours.
That makes sense.
And as you take this away and sort of gently caress the bouquet with your hand, and kind of like as you're examining the flowers and taking in the smell of them, you have another of these moments where memory washes over you and everything just kind of focuses down to a moment from your past. The earth crumbles between your fingers as you dig. The dampness of the morning chills your hands and you feel the dirt cluster under your nails. Finally, you get a grip on the roots and pull the plant free. You lay it carefully on the cloth with the candle and mutter the chants as you greet the dawn. As the sun glows on the horizon, you see the candle light and you know your goddess blesses you.
Great.
And then you're back in Camden Market. And I suppose you can start making your way back to the hotel.
Right.
So let's move around. We'll skip Tommy for now. We will come back and say what other things people are doing. But I'm guessing, Tommy, you're not preparing anything for the gift particularly.
Push-ups.
Sure, push-ups, some curls.
Performative art.
Fang flexing.
Yeah.
Just to, get that bite down. So, Catherine, I believe what we discussed is A, you're going to Harrods to buy some clothes, and B, you are going to the gallery that Darius had laid out to try and find some poor unfortunate artist to be brought into the world of the kindred in some sense.
Yes, and I just passed my rouse check. And also, I don't know if I'll have time for it, but last thing in the night, if we have time alone, I'll try and write a brief poem just in case the other bits aren't well received, that I have a backup.
Sure. I think that's absolutely fine. I think you can achieve all those things. I'll probably put a cap on getting 3 things done for everyone tonight. So I think that will fill your evening if you're all right with that. So I think each of those can have a role for them, honestly.
Okay.
So first off, let's go with I would imagine the first thing you do is get clothes.
Yes, because I can't go to the art gallery dressed like this.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, you're someone who appreciates the finer things in life and can recognize them, but you are somewhat out of time as well. So let's make a roll for that. And also, you're working with not a huge amount of money in although I don't know if you split the money evenly. I suspect Catherine has not.
Catherine did, mainly because
okay.
A, one needs to appear magnanimous, and B, everyone saw how much money there was.
Sure. To make the best use of this money, I'm going to give you two options for a skill to roll in. I'm going to give you first you can make a I think an intelligence roll. I think you'll take enough time now that it doesn't have to be a wits roll or anything. You know what? I'll give you the option. You can roll either intelligence or wits, and then with that you can roll either etiquette or finance.
Okay, unless you'd randomly allow me to use or with my etiquette, I'm going to do intelligence and finance.
I don't think so. You're mostly picking out.
I don't think so either. That's what I figured. Intelligence and finance, fortunately, is 8 dice, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 successes with a critical.
Okay, then.
That was one of my better rolls.
You make your way through Harrods, still bustling at this time. Again, you are struck by how many people there are in 2012, and the store is still thriving, even in this mid-evening time. You walk through the clothes section and find there's such a panoply of options available to you. You pick and choose from them. As you walk through, you gently observe others walking past you. You observe young women walking who look graceful and in place and confident, and you take a mental note of how they are dressed, and you piece together an outfit based on this. I'm happy for you to pick what that outfit is, and for it to be a very striking and relatively cheap option for what you're taking. But I'll leave it to you to describe exactly what kind of outfit Catherine is taking, and that outfit is going to cost you. And I think, even though you have used your money to the best of its ability, reasonably in Harrods for something nice, I'm gonna be generous and say it costs £150.
That is very generous.
It's on sale.
And I am going to say that, and I'm going to speak very slowly whilst I.
Do you want us to come back to that later?
Yeah. I imagine it's a very elegant dress of the correct style that is modern, but it calls back to like not quite vintage, but that kind of cyclical fashion
kind
element.
of slightly retro. Yeah,
Exactly.
intentionally retro. Yeah, absolutely. Great. And then you attend this, as Darius endearingly called it, a young person's gallery. It is essentially modern art. And in the 40s, the roots of modern art came up during the first half of the 20th century, and you absolutely recognize, you saw the members of the Bauhaus movement and the Futurist movement, all these kind of things. You see the echoes of this in what they are doing, even if perhaps their hair is rather more vibrantly coloured than once you remembered. But you know how to behave in this set among this subculture. Do you want to give me a? It's your choice of which social attribute you want to use. I think any of the three of them is fine. And a persuasion skill, and you can obviously go ahead and add your ore to that.
So that is 10 dice. I'm using charisma plus persuasion and ore. Well, that was a much less good roll than my last one, so I'm going to blood surge this.
Do you not just want to use a willpower for a reroll?
Oh, I can't. Sorry, I don't mean blood surge. I mean willpower, but I can't use blood surge retroactively. So that's 2 successes off
even with the willpower
dice in total.
Wow.
I started with 1 success and then got it up to 2.
What you managed to do, you know what? I'm going perhaps. Well, I don't think this is necessarily harsh. I think I was looking for a minimum of like difficulty 3 or so. But go ahead.
Can I succeed at a cost? Catherine would be prepared to sacrifice for this.
Sure, you can absolutely succeed at a cost. And you know what? The cost I'm going to say is that it is it is an intensive social atmosphere in there. Everyone is quite competitive, and so on and so forth. You've made the suggestion of willpower damage, and that is exactly the direction I'm going in. I think in order to secure a young man who seems willing to go off and attend a party tomorrow night, you essentially have to mildly humiliate yourself in front of being rejected by other young impudent wretches who don't seem to know exactly what they're being offered, although what they're being offered may be something horrible. And I think we can go ahead and take you know what, I'll say it's repeated the things. Take 2 superficial willpower damage, because I think you needed a couple more successes than that. So let's go with that. How does that sound?
Delightful.
And the final thing, you persuaded a young man who's called Jeremy to go along and meet you outside the Shard tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the evening, and you're going to take him to meet someone who's very interested in his work. And from what you can tell, his work does seem fairly... He certainly seems the most popular young artist there.
Good. And that's more important than quality. I'm not a toreador.
Absolutely. And the final thing I believe was you want to write a poem.
Yes.
Well, that
glorifying
would certainly be
the Ventrue and generic terms about Lady Anne's brilliant rule, despite not knowing anything about her rule.
God, say what you will about the old skill choices, but it was certainly easier to pick what thing you'd use for poetry.
Intelligence performance.
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't think performance is a perfect fit, but I think it is
Craft.
Etiquette.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe etiquette.
I think either could work. I mean, performance would have giving either could work, and I'd have the same dice pool, so I don't. So it doesn't really
I guess here's my question: what kind of poem do you want to write?
Is it flattering?
It's definitely flattery.
Then let's go with intelligence plus etiquette,
which is the same roll either way. So that's 7 dice -2, but I'm impaired now thanks to that willpower damage. AKA
nasty.
5 dice. This is not great. 5 dice. Should I blood surge? I'm going to blood surge it because it is important.
How you think 5 dice is not
4
great?
dice back to 7.
I think that's great.
It is great, except that my first thing went so badly. If I rolled 1 success from 10 dice, I can't afford to rest my laurels. So I passed my rouse check. Oh, come on. So I got 3 successes on my poem, and I had half of a crit, but that doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget your rouse check for your blood surge.
It.
Great.
Just...
you write a poem. You think it's perfectly serviceable. Even has a certain beauty to it. You're not. It's not what a professional poet could achieve, obviously, but you're reasonably proud of it. I think that
it's
your
the
gifts together
that counts.
You're fairly confident in your gifts. So Henry, you're just going to a jewelry store. You find yourself at the nearest one. Again, obviously less well attended than Harrods and Camden Market late at night, but still there's a couple of people looking around. It's at the Docklands in London, so it's not hugely upmarket, but neither is it. It's not a pawnbroker's. You walk in and look around. What are you looking for?
I am looking for... This is a very good question. I say this knowing nothing about the cost of jewelry. I am looking for something preferably antique.
Mm-hmm.
Preferably something, if I can afford it, with rubies or amethyst or something. And if they have it, I would like to find a pocket watch or a lapel watch.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how much of your money are you willing to spend?
Well, that's a very good question. I have, £250?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything relatively decent for around 100? No, I don't know what this money is.
I need to know how much you're willing to spend so I can set the difficulty of your roll.
Oh, great.
250 pounds.
Yeah, mate, it has to be you have to be going towards it.
Amethyst, rubies.
Yeah, I'm willing to pass on the jewels if needed. Let's go for 200.
Okay.
Steal somebody's money.
Give me a
resolve.
Resolve plus. Oof. God, I really don't know what.
Finance.
Yeah, I think finance. Yeah, resolve plus finance roll.
Taste. Where's taste?
And yeah.
Oh. Okay, that's currently 3 hunger dice.
Yeah.
This is where Henry smashes up a jewelry store.
Just smashing his fist down in the glass
Steal.
cabinets. Oh my god, I'm loving this so much.
One success doesn't do it, does it?
It certainly does not, no.
Then that's a bestial failure.
Oh God.
And I thought I had it bad.
We joke.
Don't you already have a compulsion very recently? I'm sure you had
Yeah.
a compulsion recently.
Sorry, incidentally, the scene is over, so if we should you have added another 3 dice to that?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Well then. I don't want to overstep my bestial failure. The beast has taken acting out compulsion, 1 or more points of aggravated damage, a hunger increase, loss of an advantage point. Let's okay, I'm going to propose something here, and obviously the intention, although I know I tend to just say, the intention is that these things are perhaps more agreed with the players. I think Henry might be frustrated at what should be a simple task, and upon finding basically you find exactly what you're looking for. It's a nice antique watch. It has a single ruby embedded in the center of the center of the face of it. It doesn't seem to be working, but other than that, it's fairly decent. And your eyes flicker over to the price tag on it, and the price tag on it is £800. And you just, you have been through so much in the last 2 days. Nothing about this makes sense to you, and you're a man who likes things to make sense. And in a fit of beastly pique, you raise one fist and just into the glass and fold your fingers around the watch. How does that sound?
That sounds about right.
Sounds fair, reasonable.
Yep.
Sure.
Perfectly reasonable reaction.
An alarm immediately starts blaring. And a voice from over the counter on the far side of the store goes, "Hey!"
I turn to the voice and say, "My apologies. I've had an accident."
Have you got any kind of social discipline you might use with that?
No.
Okay, then.
Just a scary phrase.
It's great being bent through, isn't it? I'm really feeling being bent through this story.
Yeah, it's good having dominate, isn't it?
Yeah, I miss that.
Yeah. Are you putting it back, or are you leaving the store with it? Are you following through with what you've done?
I'm putting it back.
Take the watch. What?
Okay.
No, because things do not make sense. Okay. I do not like the new economy, the new setting that I have found myself in. But that is how things are. And you do not just take things, because that is not the right way to do it.
Okay. The man kind of runs around the counter and goes, "What have you... accident? Well, I suppose if you didn't run off with it at least," and kind of shoos you away from the counter and starts clearing all the broken glass away. You know what? Give me a composure plus persuasion roll to see how well that worked.
Oh dear.
Oh no, I'm rolling 2 hunger dice. Henry has very lopsided skills. I'm learning this.
Have you just got 2 composure? Is that it?
Yeah. That's 1 success.
Okay. We'll say that he kind of shouts at you to get out of the shop, but otherwise, yeah. Take 1 willpower damage.
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
He's not having a good time.
You stride out of the shop. What are you going to do now?
I think the sensible thing would be to find something to eat.
Sure. So, are you going to use your normal predator technique, which I believe for Henry is Sandman?
Here's the thing, and this is partly my problem with a pre-gen character.
Mhm.
His feeding type is Sandman, which is dexterity and stealth.
And
he
his
has
stat
no
crit are
points in
god-awful.
stealth.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
Neill?
And it gets worse because unless you do it off coma patients, they'll wake up screaming. So it's not a very good Sandman, and that
Yeah,
even should you succeed.
It's
Yeah.
awful to be Hecata and Sandman, yes.
Unless
So-
you're a doctor, a bit like Arthur Norris.
He sounds like a useful fellow.
He does.
Uh,
Maybe you should find him.
He won't be around.
I mean, you don't have to employ Sandman. It's just your suggested default one, which then, when no points are put in it, makes it awkward.
And you should get a
Pointless.
dot in stealth for taking Sandman in character creation. So in theory, I know it doesn't work for like pre-gen characters, but like it's a bit odd.
Do you have any points in medicine?
Yes.
Because a reasonable facsimile would be that you could stalk hospital wards, pretend like
Hmm?
you use like I don't know, composure plus medicine to pretend to be a doctor and stalk.
I think
poor
that's perfectly
coma
fine.
victims.
And there are many hospitals in central London.
Okay, that is thematically what I was thinking of doing, but
I think that's
it's-
absolutely fine.
And it's
Okay.
basically still a Sandman. It's just medical Sandman.
then I will do that because that would be much preferable to rolling as a bagger, I think.
Sure. So what if you go hunting in that sense? Then why don't you give me a composure plus medicine roll? Although you're not going to like the difficulty I'm saying,
Yes.
which is 4.
Okay. So I'm currently rolling 6 dice.
Blood surge.
I can't do a blood surge. That will end very badly. I guess
Two
if I
more
need
dice.
to.
It's 2 more dice. Blood surge.
I have a specialization in anesthetics, as I'm looking for patients that are already out of it.
You've convinced me, sir. Take an
Yes.
extra die.
Take an extra. That's 7.
With willpower, that's I mean,
Yeah,
unless you
with
fail
willpower,
as
that's decent.
badly as Catherine did.
Don't jinx me.
Which can't happen, can it?
It can't happen. Not twice in one night.
Of course not. All right.
Bad dice roll must be followed by good dice roll.
And then swap 4 for 4 hunger dice. That's what I'm slightly worried about. That's the thing.
4? When did you get to hunger 4?
I failed 2 rouse rolls, and no, actually, I failed all the rouse rolls we've had. So
Okay.
2 blush of lives and the new night. And I was
Oh,
only
you
on-
rolled Blush of Life for this night going out to the jewelry store. Yes,
Yeah.
sure.
I think I'm gonna. Oh, I'm gonna blood surge.
Yes.
The whispering in my ear has convinced me.
It's just, but to me, it's counterproductive. I know statistically it's not counterproductive, but my gut always tells me it is because it's just like you'll get another hunger and then might get another hunger. But it
But
could
it's
take
also-
it to hunger 5, and
It
that is
could.
bad.
But it's slightly less chance for total failure.
Sure.
Like a best
And you
failure.
can wake up the next night with hunger 4 and fail the rouse check then anyway.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay.
Neill, you are corrupting the youth.
You're kidding me. I'm willpowering it because I currently only have 2 successes. It's up to 3 dice, right?
Mhm.
This is so beautiful.
This is my life all the time.
It is actually,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
This is Manjul's life.
We're good.
See, blood
Four.
surge
Oh, it's
was
messy
vindicated.
critical though.
Well, now.
And don't forget to rouse check now for your blood surge as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a rouse check, not.
Hmm.
Oh, thank goodness, that might be better.
But compared
That's
to
funny.
what?
I've
What did you
got
think?
one more point of blood than I thought I might have done.
Oh, you thought it was an automatic reduction?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I would just
Messy
like to-
critical, you say?
Join in a sentiment put forward by not Game Alex, but player, Alex, in our Alien RPG, and I would like to ban dice.
Okay.
Fair.
Well, it's a controversial opinion. Let's see if you pick up any support on it.
Which technically means 6 successes.
Again, if you hate what I'm proposing, counter argue it. But I'm pretty sure we can run with this one. So you find yourself in a hospital. You're almost not even sure how you got there. You were wandering the streets. You saw what was clearly a hospital. Ambulances outside it. The smell of cleaning fluids and the sterile scent of a hospital space. You walked inside in your outfit, which you're still wearing and still covered in mud, because you didn't say you were going and getting a change of clothes. You walk around the hospital, around the wards, taking note of an incredible amount of new technology and equipment, and then you come across a ward where everyone seems to be sedated. You can smell the anesthetic washing over you. You creep down it, if anyone walks past and glances in, you pick up and look at a chart to give the impression that you are a doctor going about some late rounds. And then you proceed to the end of the ward to a sort of sectioned off area where everyone has a small room of their own, separated by curtains and occasionally an actual wall space. You creep inside and find a woman in there, perhaps in her 50s or 60s, and stalk over to where she is, lean down, and you start to feed from her wrist. And as soon as you start to do so, you have no control over what is happening next. You latch on and you drain the woman dry, and it's only as you start to emerge from this reverie that you find yourself in that you realize she has been given. She is letting out a long, high-pitched wail. Whatever you're doing from her has pulled her out, even from the sedatives, and you hear voices calling out at the end of the hall, and as her wail drifts off into nothing, this woman will never make a noise again, and all you can hear is a high-pitched, shrill beeping noise as the machinery around her rouses to life in a desperate attempt to maintain the animation of her body. And you realize you have most certainly, Henry, breached the masquerade. Also, can you give yourself a stain? You didn't intend to do it, so not more than that. But on the bright side, Henry, you're at Hunger Zero.
Oh, good.
Hunger Zero Club, join us.
It's always so fun when you reach Hunger Zero.
I'm not in the
Use
Hunger
the
Zero
good
Club
Pierre.
anymore.
How are you going to remove yourself from the situation?
Are the footsteps down the corridor imminent? As in,
yeah, there are people kind of walking down a darkened corridor towards where you are.
I'm going to. Is there a window?
Yeah, let's say there's a window nearby. Most hospital windows are reinforced or don't open very well. But you could and this one looks to be one of those. But you could, basically, if you want to get out this window, you're going to have to force it. But do you want to do that?
Got to use that blood for something.
I cannot think of. This has all gone horribly wrong, but I can't think of any other way out of this.
You could try and talk your way out. You could try and run.
I'm going to try and run, I think.
Okay. Or you could try and you could try and stealth, but you have already said you do not have any points in stealth, so perhaps that's not a great one. Okay, if you're going to run, give me a dexterity. You know what? Your choice of dexterity or wits and athletics roll, please.
They're exactly the same. Okay, so that's just 3 dice, and before I run for it, I want to
Blood surge
like that's a good idea. I was going to say grab a wire or something to. Obviously, when they look at her, they're going to realize that she's drained of blood.
Mm-hmm.
But would that cover my tracks in any way?
I'm going to say right now this is about to happen, so I'm going to impose a bit of cross-player character impetus by saying you really don't have time to be making this kind of an analytic decision.
Then I'm just going to blood surge and run.
Okay. So add 2 to your dice pool and go ahead and make the roll for us.
1 success. Are you kidding me?
Do you want to roll? Do you want to re-roll that with willpower? If you've got willpower left.
Don't have willpower left.
You can still spend it. You just take aggravated. And also don't forget your rouse check.
Oh my god.
I'm only gaining perverse pleasure because I can see this happening to me at some point, so I might as well enjoy it while it's not me.
Every time Mandrill feeds.
What does the shaking your head? We can't tell what the shaking your head means, John.
I'm just everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I will spend a willpower.
Okay.
To reroll 3.
That reroll.
Just the 1 success.
In addition, or
nope, just the 1 success overall.
Okay.
Wow.
Oh my god. So, I mean, I don't think that does it. First, have you made your rouse check?
Yes, and I passed.
Okay. You kind of dash sort of away from it was, and you hear some voices cry out behind you, and you can hear people running behind you. They're probably going to catch you.
Great.
Well, shit.
What are you going to do? You're still near some windows. You could try and force them open. You could try and maybe lose them, but you're not going to. You could try and talk to them, but you're not going to outrun them.
Eat them alive. No, maybe not.
Is there anywhere I can duck into to hide?
Well, why don't you give me a wits plus I won't say stealth because you don't have any. A wits plus subterfuge roll. I think that's.
I also don't have any of that.
Okay, then give me a wits roll.
Okay.
And your difficulty for this, I'm going to say, is against their wits plus awareness, and I'm going to say that's a difficulty 2.
1 success.
Do you want to take another point of aggravated willpower damage for a reroll?
Oh no.
Yep. All right.
This was not the cliffhanger I intended, folks. I'll say that.
No.
Feeding is tough, guys.
This is what happens when you roll lots of dice.
That's 2 successes.
Okay. You duck into a room at the side as you round a corner, and you see a couple of individuals, a man and a woman. From what you've seen around the hospital, they look like maybe nurses, what modern nurses look like, and they speed past the room. And as they do so, you duck out, weave your way through the hospital, and out into the streets of London at night. Yes, that was a very bad situation. You're fairly sure you've just breached the Masquerade because you've drained a woman dry and left her in a hospital, which is exactly a place where they can tell if someone has been drained dry of blood suddenly.
Smooth as silk.
I've got a feeling we're going to visit that hospital in our main game in many sessions' time and find out about some mysterious accident many years ago.
With everything that's been going on,
Night Stalker of that hospital. With
everything that's been going on, it really does feel like London was deserved everything it got with the Inquisition.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah,
we've got
absolutely.
vampires going up to hotel clerks without using Flush of Life. We've got people draining people basically in the middle of the streets.
I would say John looks genuinely devastated at this. It won't affect your real life, John. It's fine.
But also, okay,
No, go for it. Go for it.
I'll search.
I have an ability that, with time, allows me to get rid of dead bodies, but I didn't have the time to do it.
Cool.
Curses.
It's just annoying.
Sure.
It's just annoying.
Eating away.
You should kill more people and use it more often.
Yeah. And
That is the lesson.
Then it'll work. Yeah, that's not the kind of cliffhanger I anticipated ending this one on, folks. But it seems like an appropriate place, and we're at about the right time for us to close up. I suppose John now knows what Pierre often feels like. So there we go.
How hungry were you when you started your plan to go hunting? Like 3, right?
4 hunger.
4.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Henry did need to feed, but them's the dice. And on that note, thank you everyone for watching. If you've got any comments or questions, pop them into the chat, and Steve will pop them in the place on the screen for us to discuss. In the meantime, promo things. We run 3 weekly series, Monday through to Wednesday. Mondays is Call of Cthulhu, which started yesterday, and Wednesdays is Simbroom, and obviously Tuesdays is Vampire. They're all on at 8 o'clock GMT. And we'd be delighted if you joined us week to week. We also run monthly one-shots. We've got a couple of them already over on a YouTube channel that are in VOD form. That's Alien and Troika. And the next one that we do on April the 3rd is going to be Morkborg. I believe someone, either in our private chat or in our general chat, referred to me as a coward for not saying it in a metal voice. In fact, was it you, Pierre? Did you do that?
It was John.
It was John. In that case, I feel I should warn people before I do attempt this that I did used to do vocals for a metal band. So as a special treat, here we go. I'm going to do Morkborg in a metal voice, and it will be the metalist of metal voices.
I hope so.
Morkborg.
Yeah, there we go.
Beautiful.
There we go.
Amazing.
That was pretty good.
Bit out of practice there. Only 20 years or so.
You've got to get practicing for when the one shot happens.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, well, you
I have
do
the entire section will be delivered in sort of death metal growls. Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful.
Sure. So yeah, we've got that going on. There's a bunch of other links below to our YouTube and our Twitch. You're watching on one, check out the other. To our social media, to our Discord and our Patreon. Why not join us on those things? Yeah, I think that's all my promo. I don't think we've got any questions or comments in the chat. Oh no, there we go. Did Henry bother to do anything with the wound? I feel like it was already extreme enough. I think like Henry's. Is there even a thing in 5th edition that you have to lick the wound closed? I think in 5th edition it just automatically closes. Does it?
No, well, it's described as that you lick it closed. It's not described that you have to
mention it every time. Yeah, I'm fine with Henry instinctively having done it. I don't want to add anything to the Henry pile at this point. I think that's fine. But I don't think it matters. In a city being actively monitored by Operation Antigen, I don't think they're going to go, well, there aren't fang marks, so it's clearly not a vampire that's drained this woman dry. So yeah.
Yeah, like where did all that blood go?
Look, if there's any kind of doctor that's like Dr. House, that's very popular right now on the TV, and I bet you there's something. So they'll walk in and be like, a spontaneous case of exsanguination, just the case for me to submit to the conference on medical mysteries. We never know. We might be going to go with it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm sure everything will be fine. Talking to people on trains last night, which happened on Call of Cthulhu, and choosing gifts tonight. Telling Tales definitely plumbing the depths of my personal stack of horrors. Those both. Yeah, I'm not fond of either of those either. Give me a wish list, people. That's all I'm saying. Queen Anne should have a wish list. That would
exactly.
Maybe she's registered at Harrods.
2012. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, that seems to be everything, folks. So thank you for watching. Thank you for taking part. To my wonderful players, thank you to Steve for being our stream manager, and we'll see you next week for the next episode of Fall of London. Goodbye.
Farewell.